Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. A little bit ago, I actually posted on all my social medias that I was going to be doing a Q&A video. I know that sometimes I take Q&As and I do them live when I'm doing my live streams, but I was like, you know what, are there any pressing questions that people have for me? But I just took some quick screenshots so I can go through them now, and I will answer them here for you in this video. If you like answering questions about Prince or just having a fun time here, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when Prince's Friend posts a new video. Also consider becoming either a patron or a YouTube member. Links for those are down in the description. So again, it was a while back that I asked for these questions, so I don't remember what they are. I'm going to answer them as truthfully and as honestly as I can. So let's do it. So the first question is, do you know anyone who's selling a copy of the Gold album? It's such an interesting question that, like, I'm like, hey, ask me anything. And they're like, where can I buy this thing? I don't know. Last I saw on Amazon, I think you can get it for like 40 bucks or somewhere around there, which isn't bad for like a limited edition, I guess, kind of illegal album that it is kind of right now. It's gotten to that level due to the lawsuits and stuff over in Italy concerning the copyright and whatnot of The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. So that's where I would go. Amazon, honestly, Amazon is where I go to purchase a lot of stuff. So, I mean, that's just me. So interesting first question. Let's go ahead and read the second one. Will there be any new releases from Prince's estate this year? I'm talking about an album with new and unreleased songs like Eternity, Jukebox with a Heartbeat, etc. You know, it's interesting because a lot of people have different ideas about what new or unreleased means. Because if you're like deep into the bootleg community, Jukebox with a Heartbeat, I have that song. Like, and I'm not even deep. Eternity is actually one I haven't heard. So, but if you have, then that probably means you already have it. So is that new and unreleased? It would be for me, but not necessarily for, for you or other people who are in the bootleg community. Sadly, I don't have any inside info, so I don't like know somebody on the inside who's giving me the scoop on what the next album's going to be or anything. So I guess my answer to that would just be, yes, there will be new releases. I don't know what they will be, but there will definitely be releases if they continue with the current scheduling that they're doing. Usually it's something in the beginning of the year and then some sort of deluxe edition of an older album in the later part of the year. That's what we've been getting. Let's see if we continue that. Question number 3. If the Prince documentary could focus on discussing his cause of death, his complex love life, and how he ran his business, which would you prefer it to be the one it tackled and analyzed the most? If I had to choose between those three, what I would say is, I guess I would do how he ran his business, if those are my options. You know, it's weird. I've kind of been one of those people who is not really necessarily all that interested in Prince's love life. It's a well-known fact that he was a womanizer and that he had a lot of women, and like, you know, that's cool, but I don't have to know about all of them. Like, if those people want to come out and they want to share their stories, then cool, like, I'll listen. I actually find relationship stuff kind of boring. Now, how he ran his business, though, because Prince was always kind of on the cutting edge of like trying new distribution stuff, utilizing the internet, creating music club, like all this different things that he did over the course of his career in order to get his music out. And that's what I would want to know. I'd want to know how his business ran, especially as a blossoming musician. I'd love to know what worked for him, what didn't work for him. And I feel like that sort of thing is more interesting to me than who he had happened to be, you know, kissing at the time. With regard to the cause of death, I honestly am not a big fan of any documentary that harps on the ending of a story as opposed to the story itself. I feel like that would just be like, you know, a whole documentary on Harry defeating Voldemort and not watching the progression of him as a character and all that stuff that led up to him doing that. If all we did was we just talked ad nauseum about this character's death, you know, it doesn't have to be Voldemort. I definitely was not trying to say Prince was Voldemort. Prince is Harry in this analogy. But anyway, so I don't feel like there needs to be a whole ton done about the ending of a story. We should focus on the journey of the story itself. I know that there are, documentaries and people who are talking about Prince's death and the circumstances surrounding it. I think the problem that I have with a lot of those discussions is that it all really comes off as conspiracy theory because there's no proof of anything. It's mostly that they're like, well, this report says this, and I have this picture, and if I put them together, it means something. But sometimes also it doesn't mean anything. So it's a weird thing. I feel like the circumstances surrounding Prince's death would be better left a mystery than to become a conspiracy. But that's just my own personal thought. I know a lot of people would disagree with that. But again, out of those three options, I would want to know the business side of Prince. Wow, that was long-winded. Moving on. The next question is a two-parter, so way to cheat there. Part one is, from all his songs, which were the top three dearest or favorite to Prince? I always wanted to know the answer to that. Besides the albums, will the estate come out with never-before-seen documentary that tells his story? So yes, we all do know, to answer question number two, we do know that the estate is working with people to make a documentary. We've heard this from some of the people who have been interviewed already for that documentary. How soon that documentary will come out, who knows? The thing about any kind of documentary that's going to come out from the estate, you have to imagine that that documentary is automatically going to put Prince in a really good light and is not going to talk about anything bad. So that is either a good thing or a bad thing, depending upon who you are. In my opinion, I like to talk about all the different aspects of Prince as opposed to just the rainbow and sunshine. But, it is coming. I don't know when, though. I've still been keeping up with that, though, and I've been releasing videos. Next time I hear some news, I'll definitely let you know. To hit the first part, what were the songs that were dearest to Prince? Interestingly enough, Arsenio Hall asked him that same question, and this was his answer.
I usually answer by saying the next one, but there is a song that we've just written called The Breakdown.
So here's a question. Do you think that Michael Jackson and Prince were friends or rivals? I think that there was a friendly rivalry between them. Definitely, at least from Prince's side. Anytime Prince would talk about Michael, it would either be like a gentle ribbing at Michael, or it would be something that would actually be saying, like, Michael's actually really awesome. Michael Jackson was less questioned about Prince. I don't really remember many interviewers and stuff asking Michael Jackson about him. But that's the thing, though, right? Is that most of the time, what you're going to get in the media is they're trying to drum up drama. So they're not going to ask Michael Jackson what he thinks of Prince because Michael Jackson was at the top of the charts and all of that stuff. They're going to ask Prince what he thinks about Michael. Because Prince would, sold fewer albums and whatnot, for as much as that means. I have a video coming on that pretty soon here. What they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, Prince, what do you think about Michael? And then he's going to say, oh, well, Michael's terrible. And then that's going to be the headline, regardless of how many other questions he answered and how long that interview was. If he says anything bad or even just seemingly bad about Michael Jackson, that becomes the story, and then everybody says, oh my God, they're enemies. But also, the media has a way of doing that. I remember when I was a kid and I would see, like, Debbie Gibson versus Tiffany, and I'd be like, they went on tour together, like they're friends, they know each other. Like, there's no reason to even bother with this question because there is no real rivalry except for what the media is creating. And I feel like that's exactly what happens with Prince and Michael Jackson. Now, I have a couple videos here on the channel where I'm comparing their careers and their musicality and whatnot. And I feel like that's a fun conversation to have, but I would never have it in a way of like, who's better? I'm definitely going to prove to you that one sucks and the other one is great, because they were both great. So there you go. Next question is, I think you mentioned before that Diamonds and Pearls might be the next reissue. Any others that are in the talks that you know about? I don't know about any of them. Diamonds and Pearls just seems the most likely one based on album sales, and that would be the easy choice. The other easy choice would be either Parade or Around the World in a Day. We know that at some point this year, the rights to the majority of Prince's albums are going to revert over to Sony away from Warner Brothers. So I would think Warner Brothers would want to release something very soon, most likely Diamonds and Pearls, because that was a high seller. And if they can do that one before Sony takes control of it, then they can make some money. However, they might stick to the Warner Brothers exclusive things, so they might go with Parade next, would be my guess. So we'll see what happens. I have no inside information again. I'm just a friend here who is just having a fun time talking about Prince, and sometimes I get my projections and my guesses correct. So the next question is, why do people love Vanity so much? She did not walk down the aisle, and have you kept up with the lawsuit against Prince and Spike Lee for Girl 6? So that is two questions. Again, you sneaky people there. So the first one, why do people love Vanity so much? Vanity was around during the time when Prince was really like accumulating a lot of his initial fan base. So there's a lot of hype behind that. Also, Nasty Girl is just a damn good song. And I think that that one probably captured the hearts of a lot of people. Vanity also went on to have, a pretty good career even after Prince. So, I wouldn't discount the actual Vanity fans that are out there who may not even like her stuff that she did with Prince, but really likes her afterwards. But also, she was an actress. She was gorgeous. She took the opportunity to leave Prince's camp and go over to Motown when it was most beneficial for her. Also, I feel like her redemption arc is kind of an interesting story for her. There's honestly just a lot to discuss when it comes to Vanity. So I wouldn't say she's not important because Prince didn't marry her, because even if they weren't married, she's still an important part of the Prince legacy. So that's my thought anyway. As for the lawsuit part of the question, I'm actually going to make a separate video about that. Thank you for the reminder. All right, next question. Do you think that Prince's style was more influenced by his music, or his music was more influenced by his style? I actually feel like it's probably the first. He would come up with some musical, songs and stuff, and a tone and a theme that he would go for, and then he would have his clothes match. I think that's probably the most likely scenario. The next question is, although much rumored, I've never actually found Prince's alleged cameo in the Batman movie. Is he actually in it? There is one scene with the mayor giving a speech and a guy runs up to the steps behind him. Always wondered if that was Prince. So I actually went back and I watched that scene, and I've watched a bunch of the scene, and I've watched the movie a million times. I have never seen Prince in this movie. If somebody can point it out to me, I would love to say, yes, he's definitely in it. From my thousands of watches of this movie, I would say, no, he's definitely not in it, because I have looked. This is a very fun question. What songs are appropriate for kids to listen to, aka the new power generation? Honestly, it's weird because a lot of people, they think of Prince as like this really raunchy kind of character. But honestly, he had a lot of songs that you could listen to with kids. He was actually going to come out with a whole kids album before the loss of his son with Maite, and then they ended up scrapping that. But, that was why he was on, Muppets Tonight and that whole thing. And he sang that version of Starfish and Coffee, which was going to be on that kid's album. And honestly, like, Starfish and Coffee is obviously the easy one, but there is a lot of songs, especially later on in Prince's career when he was no longer, cursing or anything like that. And honestly, I would say, depending upon what age child we're talking about, I remember I got into Prince at about 11, and I listened to it all. Like, trust me, you might think that your 11-year-old doesn't know things, but what's going to happen is they either A, really don't know it, so hearing it in a song isn't going to mean anything to them because they have no context for the references being made, or B, they already know and it's fun. It's a fun song. So this is a fun question. Why do you hate the Camille album? And honestly, the biggest answer to that is I don't. I think Sign of the Times is a great album, which is essentially all of the Camille songs are on that, minus one called Rebirth of the Flesh. If anybody recalls the video that I made, I just said, hey, like, we don't need a whole separate release of the Camille album. We already have all the songs. Release Rebirth of the Flesh. We'll make up our own playlists. It'll be great. And you don't need to give us something else to buy that we already own. That was really it. I actually like the Camille album quite a bit. I liked it way better than the Black Album, I'll say that. All right, next to last question. Do you think Prince already had ideas for future songs in his head while he made a particular song? For example, on the For You album, the song Baby uses the same intro beat as I Hate You. Maybe he just went back to it and really liked it? That's actually a really good question. The thing about Prince was that he was always about getting an idea out. And again, we're seeing that a lot in these deluxe editions where we're getting songs that then later on he took out of the vault and remixed them and did a bunch of changes and stuff, and then they became songs that were actually on albums. So I don't even think that he had ideas for future songs necessarily while working on current songs. I think he would, any idea he got, he would put down. And if that idea is strong, then it can be a song. If it's not strong, then it becomes a seed from which you can take and make a song later on. So that might be what ends up happening. But I do know that, like, Prince as a lyricist, he would come up with these concepts and put them in a song. And then if that concept was strong enough, then he would take it and he would make a separate song out of it, which I really dig. And the final question that I got was, what instruments couldn't Prince play? And this is actually really interesting because there was an interview that he was on, I believe it was The View, where they asked him, they said, are there any instruments that you don't play? And he said this.
With the advent of synthesizers, you pretty much can copy any sound on the planet, so I play keyboards pretty well, so I'm in there now.
You in there?
So essentially, there really isn't that many instruments that he can't play, especially when you can use a keyboard to synthesize them. But we know for a fact that Prince did not play any horns. That's why he always had a horn section. He would always bring them in, and he knew how to write for them, but he was just not even necessarily he couldn't play them, but he had no interest in playing them. He was just much more willing to let those artists come in and do their thing to enhance his sound, as opposed to really having to learn everything. He's like, don't I know enough? So anyway, thank you to everybody who submitted questions for this Q&A. I really, really enjoyed doing all of this, and I feel like doing these kind of Q&A videos, I'm going to try and do more of them in the future, but I feel like things like this are really good for just showing you guys how much I appreciate you. I'm here for you guys, really, in the end. So don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when we release new videos. I know some of you aren't hitting all videos on the bell, so you definitely want to do that because some of you are missing out on videos because you're not saying you want all of them. Also check into be either becoming a patron or a YouTube member. And with all of that said, may you live to see the dawn. I love you all. See you in the next video.